You don't get the life you want, you get the life you settle for. I think there's a lot of people who basically sit in the driver's seat of their life, but they don't actually move the car.
Hayley Mulenda, a multi-award-winning speaker, viral content creator, and an author of this very book.
You're too broke right now to not be visible. You better be on that Instagram live!
From Microsoft to KPMG, from the BBC to Unilever, she's worked with them all. But it could all have gone very differently.
I nearly got stabbed at the age of 15. And I always say, by the grace of God, the person didn't go forward, they went back out of fear. Fraud, escorting was a huge thing. That's the type of area that we grew up in. And I decided that just wasn't going to be my story. That was a decision that I made that I was going to try and fight. I want to prove every single one of you guys wrong. I have to make it now because you guys told me I can't. You're too broke not to be visible. I think there's a lot of people that keep caring about other people's opinions. You just need to look at your bank account. Those that are seen are the ones that get booked. Those that are seen are the ones that actually get the opportunity. What message are you trying to convey? What part of your life aligns with that message? When I married him, I saw the most money in my life. I saw the most virality in my life, the greatest opportunities in my life, because I had a voice in my life that told me, Hayley, you can do it.
In this episode, it's not just about helping you to become a public speaker or build out your personal brand online. This conversation could help you connect with your destiny. If you've been hiding in the shadows all the while knowing that you have something really special to offer, but you just can't find your inner voice, the strategy, or the way through, strap in. It's time to take a ride with us because right now, this is Hormones and Heroines. Hayley Mulenda.
Yes.
Welcome to Hormones and Heroines, girl.
Well, thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. I discovered you through a hugely impactful viral clip where I was like, I need to know this girl, which is ironic because, you know, the book that you've written that we're going to talk about, Speak Up, is largely about visibility.
Yes.
So it was interesting that that's how I found you in the first place.
Yes.
Now, we're going to get into loads of facets of your life and, you know, find out how your journey started. But for those people who are kind of time poor and they want to know what value they can grab from the podcast, because I'd really love you to, you know, in this chat, summarize some of the things that people are going to be able to get from the book so that they can really sort of like action some stuff. So I want to use this as like almost like a mini tutorial so that people can lock in and, you know, learn some principles from the book.
Yeah.
What would you say that they're going to be able to get from this podcast that's going to help them to be more visible, speak up for themselves, maybe get into public speaking?
Yeah.
You know, let me know.
They're going to get the importance of audacity. Yeah.
Audacity was the word that I was so keen to talk to you about.
Audacity.
Expand on that for me, please.
You don't get the life you want, you get the life you settle for.
Oh, that's a mic drop.
And
Say that again for us again.
Okay, you don't get the life you want, you get the life you settle for. And I realised that from a very young age. I started speaking at the age of 15. I got my first 5-figure paid speaking engagement at the age of 20. I went into corporate at the age of 19 in terms of speaking engagements. And I did my first government client at the age of 20 as well. So, and I done Wembley Arena in front of 16,000 people at the age of 19.
Wow. So when people are listening to this and they hear the word audacity,
yes,
what does that mean in terms of what they're going to be able to walk away? So they might have a feeling. And it's really funny that you say that because I actually was going to ask you about that word, but we're going to jump to it right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, audacity in the dictionary basically is a willingness to take bold risks.
Yes.
So that is what you believe after this chat, people are going to go away and be able to do from this conversation is take bold risks.
Take bold risks, and they're going to want more for their life. I think there's a lot of people who basically sit in the driver's seat of their life, but they don't actually move the car.
Why is that?
I think because of fear. I think a lot of people don't actually fear failure. I think a lot of people fear success because success comes with a lot of responsibility. Because when you think about it, it comes with a lot of responsibility, visibility, criticism. I always think about the footballers, right? It's always the people who are outside of the court who make a lot of criticism. Let's go back to, was it 2021? Saka missed the penalty. Gosh, England was frustrated. People who have never picked up a ball had a lot to say in terms of Saka.
And by the way, he got us to like our first like major championship final in how long? But they're focusing on the penalty miss.
Exactly.
That was a liberty.
It's the people who are not on the court that normally have a lot to say. And most people don't want to be in the eye-light or the highlight of people being able to criticize them. Because when you are visible, you're visible to your haters, you're visible to your enemies, you're visible to criticism. So most people like to stay hidden, because they find that in order for me, if I stay hidden, the criticism won't necessarily, get to my head or my heart. But I just think that's nonsense.
But that's in direct contrast with what we really need today, which is visibility a lot of the time,
Yeah, we
as it
do.
pertains to personal branding, even if you have a brand outside of your personal brand.
Yeah.
Even for me as, a hair care line owner, I've had to really get my head around social media. And I would always use the excuse of, I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
I'm not used to kind of like putting myself out there online.
Yeah.
I've been used to kind of like an environment where there's a platform already and I join it and But going back to your original quote that you said, I really want to unpack that. You don't
Yes.
get the life that you want, you get the life that you settle for.
Yes.
So then it's even more than the fear factor, right? It's also about us settling. Why do you think that we settle? Give me an example of a person that would typically look to you for inspiration that might be settling in their life and what you then give to them through, a multitude of tools, whether it's that they buy the book, or whether it's one of your online courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically what I've actually found quite funny is that because I do a lot of C-suite leadership training, I work with quite a lot of private sector clients. Sometimes I found that the C-suite leaders and D-suite leaders only actually took the job for the level of security, not because they actually wanted the job. So they look at me and they look at me making more or less same income as them, and they are inspired by freedom, not necessarily just security. And I find there's a lot of people who actually settle not for freedom, they settle for security. But security doesn't always guarantee happiness. And I find that with a lot of people, when they go for the thing that is most secure, most times it actually comes with a lot of pain because they've had to limit themselves and box themselves. And I'm one person that normally comes like a bulldozer, and I kind of break that level of security and that trust in your security, because security is a facade.
Wow. How does somebody who's not turned 30 yet have such an old head on young shoulders about the world? And I don't mean that to sound condescending.
No.
But it's true though, because I feel like in your 20s, generally, you're not kind of aware of the whole idea of like settling and how that can be painful until maybe later on down the line when you've wasted a lot of years in an environment that you've just grown out of. But like you say, from a security point of view, you settle.
I made a lot of choices when I was younger. And what I mean by that is I grew up in an area where a lot of people had been shot at, stabbed at. I nearly got stabbed at the age of 15. I was somewhat affiliated with some gang affiliated activity, and I nearly got stabbed. I had an 8-inch to my abdomen, and I always say, by the grace of God, the person didn't go forward, they went back out of fear. And if it wasn't for me having that type of encounter, I promise you I don't think I'd be here. I could have easily been a statistic saying young black girl 15 stabbed to death, and I made a choice. That's basically what I decided. I made a choice. And I think a lot of people don't make choices. They don't make choices. And I made a choice. And that's what I mean in terms of you don't get the life you want, you get the life you settle for. And I decided that I wasn't going to settle for a life of crime. I decided I wasn't going to settle for a statistic. I decided that a lot of young people in my area had only been exposed to success in 3 ways. Fraud, escorting was a huge thing, or grooming. Or number 3, it was... I don't want to say fraud again, but you just had to cut the corners, basically. That's the type of area that we grew up in. I know a lot of people, unfortunately, that are either in prison or they've passed away because of gang affiliation. And I decided that just wasn't going to be my story. And I understood that for a female, because a lot of people think that it's a male-dominated problem. People don't actually understand how much it impacts us as women, because we didn't grow up with dads. So when you have an older man who's talking to you because you're looking for that fatherly voice or affirmation, you can easily get groomed. I get called into schools from some of the worst areas in London and some of the worst areas in the United Kingdom. And the issue that I've always found with these schools when it comes to young girls, they always say grooming. They always say grooming. And I made a choice. I made a choice that I was going to be not just a voice, but an example. Because there's no way that I was going to inspire a generation to basically make better choices if I wasn't leading the way. And as I said, growing up in the type of area that I did grow up in, I had many people around me, women, not to disgrace them, but I had a lot of women who had teenage pregnancies. I saw the limitation that I had on them. Some of them, unfortunately, didn't get their GCSEs, didn't get their A-levels. They had to more or less sit down to parent their child, and they were children themselves. And it kind of forced me to make choices from a very young age to basically say, Hayley, you've got A or B, kind of like a matrix, right? Red pill, blue pill. And I kind of decided that I was going to take the pill that it's going to cost me something now in terms of I may not necessarily be the one that's always at the parties. I may not necessarily be the one that is kind of the popular. I may not necessarily be the one who is always outside and clubbing. However, if I kind of make these sacrifices now, when I'm older, I can give back to those people. And that's something that I can actually say that I've been doing now.
Wow. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Just wanted to rewind a bit, and I didn't even imagine that the conversation was going to go in this way, but I really want to drill down on some of the things you said. I was adopted, you see,
Wow.
at a few months old, and my biological mother wouldn't have been a safe environment, basically, to grow up with her. And so I always think about like parallel worlds of how things could have been, you know, if Lambeth Council hadn't have intervened and social services and all the rest of it.
Wow.
But what was it in your sort of like environment, if you don't mind me asking, and your sort of like, not necessarily upbringing, but your environment, I suppose, or upbringing that ended up meaning that you were exposed to certain things that where you were quite vulnerable, if you could pinpoint it, and then how did you find the mental fortitude to like take another direction?
Yeah. I definitely would say the type of area that I grew up in. I grew up in the area of Newham. Newham is the third poorest borough in London.
So that's East London for those who don't know.
East London. And I always say that I grew up in Stratford pre-Westfield, right?
I know that one.
Pre-gentrification.
With the old shopping centre.
Yes,
that one's still there, isn't it?
Yeah, still there. And people need to actually know that where Westfield was and actually Olympic City, that was actually a garbage site. So that was actually where all the bins and the garbage of Newham were going to that area in Hackney. So that area was not nice, right? So you can imagine we was kind of more or less exposed to a lot of scarcity, depravity. It was just depraved. It was a deprived area, should I say. And I find that with a lot of the exposure that we had, even when I think about it in terms of school, we had older white men that were always telling us, okay, if you want to succeed, you go to university or you kind of work for a particular area, a particular corporate. And none of us could really relate or resonate because we didn't necessarily have, not necessarily bad grades, but we never got exposed to, different opportunities and different things. I feel like what we was more exposed to more than anything was the gangbangers who were circling around our school, or, you know, those who were, as I said, those who were cool and the people that had money were the ones who did fraud. So what we was exposed to was the ones that looked like us that were successful, they had the money, they were doing it illegally. But those who were doing it legally didn't look like us. Does that make any sense?
100%.
So it was older white men called Tim and Tam, Sam and whoever. They're coming in and they're kind of like, yep, you can do anything you want and you can come and work for Goldman Sachs and da-da-da-da, and you need to have minimum A-star, da-da-da-da, and you need to go to Russell Group University. And we're like, oh, okay, Tim, thanks. But then you've got someone like T-Boy or whoever their gang name is coming outside the school and be like, hey, yo, wagwan. What, you want to make some pee, yeah? Alright, cool. So I'm going to need you to go buck this person. And when you do that, I'm going to give you £500. What? £500? Yeah, I got way more money where that's from, my gal. Do you understand? So when you've got somebody who's actually making the effort to approach you, groom you, look after you, as I said, many of us grew up without dads. So when you've got particular people who are promising you certain things, you're also 12 and 13, you don't know, you think you know it all, but you don't.
And they're speaking your language, so
they're speaking your language and they look like you. That's the difference. They look like you. This is why representation matters.
Exactly.
This is why representation matters. And I decided that a lot of the voices that I saw being influential with a lot of the young people in my area, I decided I wanted to be one of those voices, but I wanted to do it the right way.
And what was that moment? What was the turning point for you?
Yeah, so I think the turning point was two things. As I said, nearly got stabbed at the age of 15. My life flashed before my eyes when I saw that knife. If you see like a 9-inch knife go towards your abdomen and you are 15 years old, trust me, your life will flash before you. And at the time, I thought I got stabbed. I literally froze. And I'm so grateful to God that it did not go in. And it was by a bystander that actually was running, because it was in a park, it was in West Ham Park in Forest Gate. And it was a bystander that literally was running past. And she was like, oi, what are you doing? And out of fear, as I said, he's gone back rather than going in to my abdomen. And he ran away. He ran away and he had my BlackBerry because he came to rob me, basically. And at the time, I was in so much shock. And I remember literally her saying, I'm going to call the police. And by the time the police came, I ran. Because I made a decision that I wasn't going to go back in the police car. And because I knew that it would look like young black girl in the back of a police car, even though I'm not the person that did anything wrong.
On this occasion, yeah.
It still would look crazy.
Exactly.
And I remember literally my best friend had to come pick me up. And I remember having a conversation with my best friend and I said, I never want to be in this type of predicament again. Because how I ended up there was because of a friend. I thought I was I thought I was meeting a friend, and I knew that friend was affiliated with gangs. I knew, but I just thought, oh, they would never do anything to me. They would never set me up, and then I got set up.
I think that's the thing as well. Sometimes there's certain circles that you're in and you can think that you know these people well enough and you get the nuances and you think you're streetwise enough to know that, like, these people, okay, they're involved in this, but actually I know this particular person's cool.
Yeah.
And actually, no, if you're around people like that long enough, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Who was at home for you at that time in terms of like your mum, dads? Like, what was your family setup and did they know your environment, what was going on?
Yeah, so funny enough, I talk about this in the book. My mum, amazing woman, love her. My mum has definitely been my greatest supporter and biggest supporter. But as a single parent, she had to work a lot. So I had my mum. My dad passed away when I was 3. I had my older brother as well, but my older brother was working, and he's quite like 10 years older than me. So at home, I was kind of more or less by myself quite a bit. And so I spent a lot of time, and I felt like I had a bit of a juxtaposition because my mum didn't actually know I was up to nonsense. So I only told her when I was older. Literally way older. Like I told her when I was older, I used to smoke weed, I used to do this.
So you pulled the wool over her eyes good and proper then?
Yeah, definitely. But that was what my friends had a huge influence at the time. And as I said, we didn't know any better. It was the environment that we were kind of exposed to. I had people who I was close to as well, teenage pregnancy. And it's funny enough, I made a decision even when I was younger that because of the amount of teenage pregnancies that I saw, I actually made a decision that I was going to lose my virginity until marriage. And I kept my virginity until marriage.
Which then leads me on to your husband.
Yeah.
We're gonna put a pin in that because I really want to talk about like the viral clip that you posted, which is also amazing. So at the age of 15, 16 now, you're thinking, I want a different life for myself.
Yes.
Because you actually, this is not your first book. I discovered that you actually put out a book when you were like 18.
Yeah, when I was 18, my mum was my first investor.
Wow.
Yeah, so she invested into that one.
So tell me about that and about, so now you're on a different path. You've changed your mind about what you want, because of this life or death situation that you've been in.
Yeah.
What happened next?
So I went to university, and in my first year of university, I think it really dawned on me that I'd actually gone through quite a lot of traumatic experiences. And I didn't necessarily get taught how to process well. Because something I would definitely say in the African Caribbean society, mental health pre-2015 was never discussed. Mental health was a taboo word, right, in our communities. Now it's a bit more palatable, but prior to 2015, you were not hearing the word mental health. And I didn't actually realize that some of these experiences actually led me to actually have depressive episodes. So it was only when I got to university, I'd realized that actually, Hayley, you've gone through some stuff and you are actually dealing with some depression and you are dealing with some anxiety. I didn't know that me kind of having panic attacks or me kind of being fearful of stepping out or having social anxiety. I thought it was normal. I didn't have words for this. And so it was when I went to my first year of university, I found it really hard to get out of bed. I found it hard to shower. I found it hard to eat. I found it hard to communicate how I was feeling. And I realized that I got into a huge dark place. It was so dark, and my thoughts were now suicidal ideation, and my thoughts were now very dark, and I didn't know who to talk to, and I didn't know how to communicate it. And it got to a point where, as I said, I was finding it even hard to just leave my room. And I thought to myself, I'm the only person that's going through this. Surely I'm the only person that's having these thoughts, or the only person that feels these things. And I journaled a lot in that time. And I wrote a lot of letters to myself to encourage myself that, Hayley, you're going to get out of this and it's going to be okay. And I made a vow to myself that I wasn't going to see past my 90th birthday. So I kind of made a decision that I was going to take my life at the age of 18. No. And I tried 3 times in 2016. And one of the times was actually someone in my family actually caught me. And as I was picking up the pill, they had a conversation with me, and funny enough, they told me a story about Muhammad Ali, and they basically said that Muhammad Ali will get into the ring and they all say, Muhammad, come on, you can fight. He gets knocked down. Come on, get up, you can fight. But it's up to Muhammad to actually get up and fight. It doesn't matter how many people are cheering him on. And he said to me that we can all be cheering you on, Hayley. We could all be cheering you on, but you've got to meet us and you've got to help us and fight. And that was a decision that I made, that I was going to try and fight. Didn't happen overnight. But I used to do some small things, and I used to celebrate myself for the small things, such as brushing my teeth, showering, eating breakfast, opening up the curtains, for example. At the time, that's where I kind of found a bit of my faith. I started listening to sermons. Prior to that, I didn't really listen to anything to do with Christianity or anything like that. I kind of went down a spiral of spirituality and faith because I felt like I wanted to tap into a wider purpose, bigger purpose. And at that point, I had a bit of I don't want to say premonition. I had dreams where I had a book. And this book was basically saving young people from making permanent decisions for a temporary feeling.
Oh, that's a
And
good one.
I basically said I want to create a book that's going to help young people overcome dark spaces and to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that's actually what birthed my first book. So I got the journals that I wrote to myself basically when I was in depression, and I basically sat down and I utilized a psychological method in terms of memory, because I did psychology for A-level, and it was basically to link something you do know with something you want to learn. So that's where I kind of created the ABCs to Student Success. So I went through an alphabet of different life lessons that helped me get through my darkest place. So A was for acceptance, B was for belief, C was for confidence, D was for determination, E was for environment. And I wanted to make it very clear so a young person could read this and basically, in school, you learn your ABCs. So it's for young people.
So then they're always going to, what was T?
What was T? Oh, gosh. What was T?
I'm testing you now.
I haven't forgot, but I knew.
I thought the concept was brilliant. When I read it, I was like, this is
Thank
genius.
you.
Especially because I've got 2 young children. I was like, this is genius.
Oh, Nadia, yeah. Get them the book. I mean, I'd love to even sign it for them. But yeah, I self-published that at the age of 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in 3 short years, you've then gone from someone who's gang affiliated, nearly stabbed to death,
Yes.
to being this new kind of self-published author, entrepreneurial,
Yes.
pulling yourself out of what would only be described as clinically depressed.
Yes.
Wow. So then now I want to go back to the word audacity.
Audacity.
Because this is where I'm seeing, it all come together. So you found your faith as well. What was your next step where you were using that word? And, because some of the things that people are saying about you in testimonies on the book, and you've got the foreword from Dr. Eric Thomas,
Yes.
E.T. For those who don't know, he's a massive American motivational speaker with so much energy.
Yes.
He's a viral content creator. So you're 18 years old, you self-published a book.
Yeah.
At what point did you start to think about public speaking, wanting to be a figure of, motivation and, wanting to impact people with your voice, not just your written word?
Okay, so we're going to have to go back to when I was 16 now.
Wow.
After I nearly got stabbed, I basically ran for Young Mayor of Newham. Yeah.
You ran... Homegirl ran for the mayor,
Yes, I ran for Young Mayor of Newham because I'd realised that what I'd experienced is that there was many different people who kind of more or less would have experienced what I'd experienced. And I basically decided that I wanted to be a voice for young people. And that's actually when I first started public speaking.
This says to me then that you've had this in you probably from a little girl.
My mum said it. I literally have. I've done a sit-down interview with my mum literally a few days ago in Dubai. And I asked her, Mum, have I always been like this? And she said, yeah. She said that basically, apparently, she used to take me to the shops, somewhere like W.H. Smith. She used to leave me in the corner to play with the toys, because there used to be, obviously, back in the day, like kids sections in these shops. And apparently, I used to perform for people. Apparently, I used to speak, and I've got a whole sit-down conversation with her.
Yeah.
And apparently, I used to do speeches at my family's functions.
Yeah.
So apparently, I used to go and tell people, guys, I live in London. I'm going to fly all of you lots to London. I don't know.
I hear things like this a lot, where there's a pattern where you think, this hasn't come from nowhere. This is like within you from like a long, day one practically.
Yeah.
Your sort of like desire and your passion for communicating, standing up and, performing, sharing yourself with other people.
Yeah, my mum said that's something I've had. And my mum also said I used to be very emotional in terms of whenever I used to see people cry on the TV, I used to cry as a child, which makes me, I'm very, very sensitive emotionally in terms of like, I will feel someone's pain. And my mum just kind of highlighted, and she's surprised in terms of my career because she didn't know public speaking could be a career. So when I told her at the age of 15 that I wanted to speak, 15, 16, I wanted to speak, she was like, what the hell? Like, girl, you need to study.
Right.
Because she didn't know any better.
She didn't see the vision.
Yeah, she didn't see the vision. But I'm very grateful she never shut it down. Even though she didn't understand it, she was just kind of like, knowing Hayley, she's going to figure it out. And, now, 13 years later, I kind of did.
So you went for Young Mayor of Newham.
Yes.
And how did that process go?
I went for Young Mayor of Newham. I can't even remember the application process, but I applied through obviously Newham Council. I had a whole campaign sheet. So I used to go to the headquarters for the council, and we'd literally get like campaign training. They gave us all these products. So I had flyers. I had a T-shirt that said "Vote Hayley Mulenda for Young Mayor." I'll show you the pictures after. I've got whole videos. And I literally went and I dominated Stratford Westfield. Like the rugrats we are, we were on those stairs shouting, "Everybody vote for Hayley! Vote for Hayley!" We were going and running in Westfield, giving out campaign. It was a whole... And I had a campaign team of 70.
70 people?
I hired people in my year group, the year above and the year below.
Wow.
And I was like literally gathering them in Brescia Hall, which the hall from my school, St. Angela's. And we used to have literally campaign meetings. I'd go into resistant materials and I'll get badges. I'd create badges. So I hired different people to be like, okay, you're on the badges, you're on the campaign.
Resistant materials department.
Yes. I was
funny.
dominating across Newham. I had different leaders from different schools in terms of secondary schools. I went to St. Angela's. I had people in Kingsford, people in Brampton, people in Cumberland. And I literally had them all in a group chat on BBM. I'd message them on BBM, sending out broadcasts saying, guys, this is where we're going to go. This is where we're going to dominate. You need to go Ilford. You need to go Stratford. You need to go Custom House. And It's crazy how, when I think about it, that was me at the age of 16. Now I'm 28 and I'm a business owner. Those skills are what I apply in my business
100%,
today.
100%. Yeah. Because you're there you can like galvanize support, communicate. This is fascinating. So you've always had that spirit within you. I want to talk about the book.
Yes.
Because obviously now I'm starting to like see like, you know, some really key moments in your life now and where there were turning points. And I'm understanding like who you are as a person and who you were as a young girl. And it's kind of like set you up for this moment.
Yeah.
So fill in the gaps for me around like when you started to become like a speaker that people knew, when you got your first like really well paid engagement, managed to write the book, how you've linked up with people like, you know, E.T.
Yeah.
Take me back to the time when you knew, okay, I'm going to be doing this for a living, right? I can actually become a name for myself. I also want to know about your husband when you met him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so take me back to a time when you were like, this is it now. Like, I'm going to actually be able to do this for a living.
Cool. So I was actually... It was NCS, so National Citizen Service, where you go away with a group of kids for like 2 weeks. I think at the time, it's something that the government kind of does for young people. And there was actually a charity called Speakers Trust that came in, and they were doing public speaking training. So even though I'd done some public speaking before, I kind of was like, oh my gosh, I actually really enjoy this. I want to do this. And everybody on my cohort was like, Hayley, you're really good at this. And that's when I was like, you know what, I actually want to pursue this, guys. So I told everybody on the cohort, I was like, guys, I want to be a public speaker. And I came back to school that week, that kind of after summer, and I was like, guys, I'm going to do public speaking. And funny enough, one of the places I said I was going to speak was Dubai. And everyone laughed. They were like, Hayley, you're crazy. People like us don't speak. People like us don't do speaking. And I remember even when I was telling some of my teachers that I wanted to do speaking, and they were like, no, just go to uni. Just focus on
And what do you
uni.
mean by people like us? What were they meaning?
People like us from the ends, came from single parent households, came from council estates. We don't aspire for life. That's why I said in terms of you don't get the life you want, you get the life you settle for. Because I was around a lot of people that we were shown our limitations, we were never shown the possibilities. So I kind of wanted to prove them wrong. That's actually how I got into speaking. So I basically was like, I want to prove all you lot wrong. I want to prove every single one of you guys wrong. I have to make it now because you guys told me I can't. And I was cheeky like that. So funny enough, a speaker actually came into my sixth form, and he had actually spoken in my primary school when I was in year 6. So I remembered him. His name's Action Jackson, still my mentor till this day. And he came into my school in terms of sixth form in the first week, and he literally came and done a motivational talk. And prior to that, my teacher had to get us to write down what we wanted to be. And I said I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And she came and said, oh, that's actually interesting because there's a motivational speaker coming in today. I said, bet, I'm going to make sure I connect with him. And so what happened is he called up different people to the stage. Obviously, I went up and he asked different people what they wanted to be. Obviously, he's there to motivate us. First week of sixth form, wants us to be more serious about our life. And different people said wanted to be midwives. Certain people said they wanted to be producers, engineers. And it got to me. Oh, Hayley, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a speaker. So he was obviously really fascinated. He was very touched. And I was like, yeah, I want to do what you do. And he was like, wow. Then I said, but I want to do it better.
Oh, I love that.
And he was like, who the hell is this rugrat? And after that, I said, I want to be mentored by you. And he gave me his book. He signed it. And he was like, okay, cool. I didn't hear from Jackson for a year. I emailed him every single week for a year.
Wow, hold on a minute. Let's go back. Wow. People need to know, like, this is sometimes what it takes.
Yeah.
The tenacity, the relentlessness that I'm remembering now what someone wrote about you in the book.
Yeah.
And they used the word tenacious. They said relentless. That is all of the above.
Yeah.
Like, so what is it that put you off not wanting to keep on emailing? Did you not think you were pestering him? Because I like this though.
Yeah. I needed to prove my people wrong. They told me that I couldn't do it.
Right, okay. So that was like your inspiration at the beginning, like you said. Yeah.
I had to make it out the hood. That's always my motivation. I
Yeah.
always say it. Guys, I'm getting out the hood. It's something I said from young. I'm getting me out the hood, my mum out the hood, everybody, we're all getting out the hood.
But what's really interesting to me, and we spoke about this before we sat down, was that like both of us, you know, were quite interested in like Tony Robbins, who's a
Yes.
massive, you know, I mean, he's beyond.
He's not just a speaker.
He's everything now, isn't
yeah.
he? You know, he's this huge personal development brand, speaker, icon. And I was saying that what's really interesting to me is that like you know, take like an Oprah. She started as a broadcaster. Now
Yes.
she's like this. I
Icon.
mean, you can't even really summarize what she is, but this icon. And so, but it's so interesting to me that a young woman of color who we don't see enough people like us in the space of wanting to know right from the gate, I want to be a personal speaker.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be somebody who is motivational.
Yes.
And have a book in that space and brand yourself as such. You know,
Yeah.
like a mini Tony Robbins or
Yeah.
a Mel Robbins
Yeah.
now. You know, she got into that after she was a solicitor and a lawyer, and now she's you know, when she was in her 40s, it started. So it's so interesting to me that as a young girl, you knew that that's what you wanted to do. And
Yeah.
especially in a space where we're not taking up enough space in that arena yet.
Yeah. I feel like I, as I said, had to make a choice. And I actually agree with you in terms of the fact that I think about the fact that in primary school I was part of the school council. I think about the fact that I was deputy head girl when I was in year,
it all
in year
starts
13.
to make sense when you look back.
Yeah, I look back at it, and one of my favourite chapters in the book is actually wrote a letter to my 15-year-old self. And I basically thanked her. I think a lot of people look at their younger selves and they hate them. I admire her.
That's a healthy way of looking back, isn't it?
Yeah, I admire her.
I want to go on to the book actually. So the first time, like I said, that I knew that you existed was this amazing viral clip where you said you're too broke to be invisible.
Yes.
Well, tell me the exact line actually, because I want to drill into this, because there'll be a lot of people listening and watching who, you know, can't get over themselves.
Yes.
Like they're just, you know, they've got these things they want to do, and we're living in a time where it is important to share.
Yes.
You know, content is king.
Yes.
And actually you need to fail publicly.
Yes.
And I think that holds a lot of people back from making a massive impact, a lot of money, building their brand, or having a brand survive and thrive. So I really want to talk about that, because I think that that's where people are going to get so much value. So tell me what you've said in that clip.
Yeah. I need your address after, because I need to give you the hoodie, because I was actually going to wear the hoodie today.
Yes, please.
You're too broke not to be visible. That's basically what I said.
You're too broke not to be visible.
Yeah, you're too broke not to be visible. I think there's a lot of people that keep caring about other people's opinions. You just need to look at your bank account and just basically be like, you know, I'm not happy with where I am financially. I need to make money. And realistically, those that are seen are the ones that get booked. Those that are seen are the ones that actually get the opportunities.
Okay, so talk to me about the connection then between visibility and success and a potential opportunity to make money.
Yeah. So I'll go back to my mentor, Eric Thomas, right? So Dr. Eric Thomas is an 8-figure speaker, and he actually went viral on a YouTube clip in 2005. If you want to breathe as bad as you want to succeed, then you'll be successful.
Say that again.
If you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. That's what ET is known for. So he said that in 2005. In 2025, he still is the number one motivational speaker because of that one clip. So I understood that virality and visibility is what's going to get you seen amongst the people you want to be known by. And every single person that I have connected with, I've always been very visible. So I met ET actually when I was 19 for the first time, and I gave him my first book. And I told him, you're going to know me.
I love this about you.
Yeah. I said, you're going to know me.
Now that's audacity.
And he was like, okay. And I met him again 3 years ago. And then I said to him, you've never raised a London speaker. I'm going to be your London speaker. I'm going to be the speaker that you're going to raise from the UK.
Speak it into existence.
And then he was just kind of like, everybody be saying that. Everybody be saying that. And I was like, I'm not saying it. I mean it. And that year we brought him into London. So I brought him into London to do an event. And that event that I'd said, you're too broke not to be visible, was the same event that I brought Eric Thomas for. And ET was actually on the lineup with me for that same event.
Okay. So what was your first major public speaking engagement where you were like how did you craft becoming a public speaker? Because obviously now
Yeah.
you've got courses on your website,
Yes.
make 6 figures in 90 days through
Yeah,
public
yeah.
speaking.
Yeah.
And, there's some really amazing chapters in your book where you talk about like visibility. And
Yes.
actually, let me go through some of the chapters because this is going to give people an understanding as to what it is that they can gain. Because I was going through a bit of a sample online as well. Thank you for bringing me this copy.
No worries.
So, you are not an imposter.
Yeah.
Let's speak on that for a moment because I think particularly for women and for women of colour,
Yes.
we can sometimes feel that either we're not enough or we're too much.
Yes.
So talk on that. Speak on that for me.
I think a lot of people are quite selfish and I think they're in their head. And I always say, if you're in your head, you're dead.
Wow.
Yeah. If you're in your head, you're dead because you're going to overthink. You're going to overanalyze. And when you overanalyze, you become paralyzed.
I need to be WhatsApping you regularly. You need to help me out in some situations. I need this. Okay, so what's the antidote to that then? Like on an actionable, practical level? Because it is easy to say don't overthink, isn't it?
Yes.
And a lot of people will say, oh, you overthink, you ruminate. But it's like, okay, how do I get out of that?
Focus on the people you're serving. I have an impact list. I have people who are depending on me to shine my light. And I also read Marianne Williamson, her quote. Obviously, I first heard it in Coach Carter in terms of the film. Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. But it ends there with when we shine our light, we give people the permission to unapologetically shine theirs. And when I understood that it's not just an honor, but it's my responsibility to shine my light because I actually passed the torch to somebody else.
Wow.
So what allowed me to eradicate completely. Imposter syndrome is scared of me. I always say that imposter syndrome looks at me and runs away, right? Because I'm so focused on the people I'm serving. I already told you, I came from a place of trauma. There was girls around me getting pregnant at teenage years, people getting stabbed. I nearly got stabbed. People getting groomed, fraud. How dare I not stand up and be an example for these young black girls who are coming from my area to know that there is better and there's a difference. It's not about me.
Wow. And that's why when you say the ruminating and the in your own head is selfish, that's what you mean.
Yes, selfish.
So
like you're thinking
on
about me.
Yeah.
But it's not about me.
So you focus on the service, who you're serving.
Yes.
That gets you out of your head.
Yes.
And into action.
Into action.
I love that. This is brilliant. Okay. The power of storytelling.
Yes.
Speak on that for me.
I think let's go back to when we are children, nighttime bed stories. When you think about storytelling, even in terms of songs, right? Well, not the music of today. I'm not going to talk about the music today. I'm talking about Lauryn Hill, Miseducation, Lauryn Hill.
Thank you. You're such an old head on young shoulders.
Yes, I love
You're like a millennial, basically. You're not, but...
I practically am. Even though I'm Gen Z, I grew up around millennials. When I think about Nas back in the day, right? When you think about I Can, when you think about Lauryn Hill, Fugees, even when you think about the Fugees, right, in terms of their artistry name, Refugees, it's a story.
Yeah.
When you think about the greatest artists, they're telling us a story. Miseducation, Lauryn Hill is my favorite album of all time.
Incredible.
Timeless, because she's telling us a story. Letter to Zion is her basically saying the industry said there is no way you can be a mother and be successful. And she had to write a letter to her son basically saying, I'm not aborting you. That's powerful. That's music.
So relate that to storytelling when you're kind of like coaching people to connect with the story that they need to tell.
I think about the fact that the greatest artists, go back to Oprah Winfrey. The reason why Oprah Winfrey stands out most times is not actually because of the fact that she's a great broadcaster or she's actually a great storyteller. When you think about Barack Obama, the reason why he won, he told a story of a woman who wasn't allowed to vote. The Yes We Can speech was actually rooted in a story.
Wow. So root it in story.
Root it in stories.
So actionable tasks then. Like find what your story is.
Yes. So normally what I normally do is I always think about, what message are you trying to convey? What part of your life aligns with that message? So when I think about audacity, I think about, let's say, for example, the story of me and Jackson, where I basically said, I'm better than you. Can you mentor me? Or when I met Eric Thomas and I basically gave him my book and said, you're going to know about me. Those are stories of audacity. But also some of the things that I have found is I actually create the stories.
I love it.
I create the stories. So right now I'm currently being, my personal trainer is an ex-Olympian, Perry Shakes Drayton. So I love it, Perry. Right. Perry's my PT, train with her 3 times a week.
Wow. How did you sort that out?
Literally reached out to her and
told her,
on
you're
Instagram.
going to be my PT.
Yeah. And then she said, if you're serious, drop me a message. I said, I'm serious. And I dropped her a message. And now she's my PT.
I love it.
Right. So Perry she's literally on my case, right? And The reason why I actually hired Perry as my personal trainer is because I have this story. I don't want to be a world-class speaker without having world-class training. There's no way that I can come and command stages of 16,000 people, 15,000 people, and I don't take my health seriously. So I'm going to hire the best that I can in the area of my personal training so that I can be the best that I can be in the area of speaking. That's the story.
I love it.
So
sometimes now you're creating the story knowing you're going to tell it down the line.
Yes.
I love that.
Now you get it.
I do. This is fantastic. Personal branding in part 3, your greatest asset in a noisy world.
Yes.
This is so timely right now.
Yes.
Speak on that for me a little bit.
As I said, people don't buy into products or services anymore. People buy into people. When you think about even in terms of venture capitalists and those who invest into startups, most times they actually invest into the founder. I've actually read a study where a lot of actually investors are more likely to even invest in a failing business if they like the founder because they like their tenacity. And if they fail at that business, they'll go again and probably succeed again.
I love it.
So I actually believe that personal branding is a way that people can trust you, but also it's a way that people can advocate for you. I honestly think that the reason why I've been able to succeed in my career is I've had people advocate for me in rooms that I wasn't actually meant to be in because I had a personal brand.
On an actionable kind of like practical level.
Yes.
Personal branding, what could someone be doing now?
I'm very big on speak to the camera and stop thinking about it being polished. I think a lot of people were like, I need to do especially women. Oh my gosh, I need to do my makeup. My foundation isn't good. I've actually gone viral multiple times just wearing a bonnet.
I love
no
that.
makeup, bonnet, because most people people want to be able to resonate with you.
Yeah.
People buy into humanity, not to perfectionism. They buy into humanity. So obviously when a woman sees me in my bonnet, I'm chill, I'm calm, they're like, I could really F with this girl. Like, she's cool.
Yeah.
So that's actually how I built my brand. I built my brand in being, which is one of my chapters here, I built my brand on being a real model, not a role model.
Oh, I like that.
I'm real.
You've got a lot of gems.
Thank you.
A real model, not a role model.
Yeah,
That's
real.
a lot of quotes on a lot of jumpers we're going to have to do.
Yeah, come on, let's do it.
Merch, mate.
But I just want to be real. And that's why, for me, when I first started speaking, I tried to actually polish my English because I said I'm from the ends. So I would go and I'd be like, yes, my name is Hayley Mulenda and I'm an international speaker. But I'm just like, yo, well gone, fam, what you lot saying? And I've literally been booked and people are like, who the hell is
But do
this
you
girl?
find, actually, do you code switch though? Because obviously you're more than capable of speaking in any way that you want.
Yeah.
You know, because you speak so well and you're articulate. But like you say, you also know how to, you're somebody who I would call like a social chameleon. You can put in a room and they're going to be able to connect with whoever's in that room. But are you now saying that regardless of, even if you're like working with like a blue chip company who's brought you in to connect with a younger audience, so you're teaching them, how would you approach that?
So I do code switch. And the reason why is because I want to show people that I'm multi-hyphenate and that I'm not stupid. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of people, unfortunately, will see a woman like me and only assume that I can only speak one type of language.
Yeah.
And I have to show them, no, I'm actually educated. I did go to university and I can speak well, but ultimately I'm not going to also change or compromise my values or how I speak or how I shop because of you. Because there has been a time in the past when I share this story, but not as often. In my younger years of speaking, I'll never forget when I was at an event and it was a very big corporate event. I was the opening keynote and somebody actually thought that I was a waitress. They thought that I was the people who were serving the drinks. So they gave me the coffee and said, oh yeah, can you put that in a bin, love?
Oh my God.
Right. So
an awkward moment when someone does
but wait
that.
for this. This is funny. So at that point, I did it. I was just kind of like, listen, I'm a person of service. I'm going to do it. I said, yeah, okay, ma'am. I'm going to do it. I even called them ma'am. I was like, yes, ma'am. I'm going to do it. And then they do the intro. Now we have the opening keynote speaker coming all the way from London. We have Hayley Mulenda. Welcome her to the stage. And she was on the front row.
That is brilliant.
So I remember saying, guys, it's so amazing to be here. I've already met some of you, amazing people. And I looked at her and I winked at her. Oh my gosh, she just went into her chair. I saw her go red. I was just like, guys, who else feels good to be here?
That's classy.
And everyone was like, woo!
You're
and
a
she was
class
just
act.
going in to her seat. And I just had a good time. She tried to speak to me after, but I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm quite busy. I've got a line of people who want to speak to me and not give me tea.
That's a class act. I love that. I love that for you. So to go over then the actionable practical things that people can be implementing as it pertains to personal branding, just speak to the camera.
And be human.
Be human.
Be human. Speak to the camera. Be human. One of the reasons why I love your brand is because you're human. Like, I see your personality shining all the way through your personality, through your personal brand. And that's what people want. The key word in personal brand is the word person. That's the key word.
But you know what, though? I have to admit, I found it hard to get to a point where I could just be myself, because I think I'd been conditioned through the kind of broadcast world.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because I feel like when I came into it in the noughties, I had agents telling me, YouTube, low production values on YouTube.
Yeah.
Crazy advice.
Wow.
I remember working with Jamal Edwards right at the beginning, SBTV.
Bless him. Yeah.
And I'd say to him, we were good friends right from the beginning. And I'd be like, right, we're going to make this like T4. We're going to have these branded cards. I'm going to do the interviews, and we'd have all this banter. And then I remember one agent saying to me, it's low production values. Imagine someone saying that to you about someone who then goes on to be like this viral, huge entrepreneur, gets letters after his name, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
So that was the mentality back then. Everything has to be polished. So I think there's a lot of people from that world, maybe, who then start to think that that's how it needs to be. But everything's changed now. Even me, like when I'm scrolling, I'm not interested in anything too over-polished.
Yeah.
You just want to see people talking real.
People who
in
are
their messy
real.
house.
Come on. In your
I'm
messy
there tidying
house.
up the background thinking, I can't reshoot
Because it's real.
Yeah, real.
We need real. We need people who are transparent. And it's so funny you're talking about that. I've left 2 of my agents before.
Wow.
I was signed to big agencies.
Speak on that.
I left the agencies because they tried to polish me.
Wow.
They wanted me perfect. I said, I'm not that girl. They told me I can't speak about God. They told me I can't do this. Yeah. They tried policing my content. I said, no way, I'm out.
What sorts of things did they not think was going to work for you?
They just didn't think that I'd be booked by corporate because I was open about my faith and open about my experiences. But it's me.
But here you are being booked by every blue chip under the sun.
Right. And I don't think that people actually care too tough about that. I think they care about, are you a nice person? Are you credible? I don't actually think that my faith deters me from being a nice person. If anything, I think it makes me more loving and more accepting.
I think it's because people get nervous about religion, and actually what it is spirituality and faith.
Yeah, of course.
There's a difference.
And you know what? I get it. I think, unfortunately, but it's the same way how there's many different... it's prejudice. That's the truth. It's the prejudice. And I'm coming to also debunk that. And I'm willing to have the conversations in terms of faith and intersectionality and all of that. But also even in terms of not even just my faith, even in terms of my gender, even in terms of just being a woman, even just being from a low socioeconomic background. I've got people who think I'm aggressive. There's been times when I speak on the phone and someone be like, oh, you don't have to raise your voice. I'm like, I'm not raising my voice.
Softly. I actually think you're really softly spoken.
Thank you.
I know you talk like me at 100 miles an hour, but I just think but that's because, I don't know.
But it's us, unfortunately.
That's because, I know.
You know what I mean?
But that's what I was saying earlier about women of colour, we're constantly thinking we're either not enough or too much.
Yes.
And it's I love that you had the bravery to leave the agents, because some people would think, well, this is like you say, it's that security feeling, isn't it? Well, I've got that agent now.
Yeah.
And then
I found identity in it. Let me also say that. I found identity in it. There was something in me subconsciously that didn't believe I was good enough as a black woman, and I needed a white agency to represent me.
Thank you. I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
I needed a white agency to represent me. And it was funny because it got to a point the following year, I made 3 times more than my agent even brought me in. Myself, in terms of me, my team. Mm-hmm. And that's when I kind of was like,
that's
Hayley,
a sign then, isn't it?
Don't compromise that ever again. And I'm open to being signed to an agency. It's not that, but you just have to accept all of me.
Yeah.
You can't just accept a part of me. You can't just come and say, okay, well, you can do this, but you can't do that. No, it's either you accept me for who I am and what I stand for, or you don't have me at all.
To be honest, I think clever agents that do really well for their clients are the ones that get that.
Yes.
I think the ones now that are getting it, because you're seeing a lot of shift in the industry now.
A lot.
And I think it is the ones that are not trying to polish anything. They're just trying to let you lean into the most authentic version of yourself.
Exactly.
I want to speak about your husband.
Yes.
Because, it links in with what you were saying earlier about a vow of celibacy.
Yes.
And faith.
Yes.
And the viral clip that you have pinned to the top of your Instagram. How many views has it got now? Something?
Wait, which one? I've got different
sorry,
clips.
It's the one where you're dancing with your husband at the wedding and you say vow of celibacy.
Oh yeah.
Or what did
basically,
you say?
I'm dancing with my husband, and I basically said, when it's your wedding night after you've been celibate, after you've been abstaining from sex. And I remember
and his face.
So many people were like, do you know what the funny thing is? I had mixed reviews. I had some people like, love this for you. And I had some people saying, this is too much. You don't need to tell us all of this. Yeah, when I first started opening up about my abstinence story, I had some people who hated it.
I didn't know whether it was even just a joke, like a meme.
Yeah, it was actually real. It was real life.
But I love that it was real.
Thank you.
Why would people think that that's too much? I don't get that.
Taboo conversations.
Taboo conversations.
Taboo conversations. When you're thinking about it, whether you're in a faith group, also come from an African background, I'm here openly kind of basically saying, oh yeah, guys, I didn't have sex with my husband. I had sex basically my wedding night. And people are like,
that's amazing.
We're not meant to know this. This is sacred. Sex is... Because some people still find the conversation regarding sex, especially... And especially in terms of faith spaces, because it's kind of meant to be sacred. It's meant to only be between husband and wife, their belief, right? So their whole thing is like, don't talk about it. But it's just kind of like...
Do it, but don't talk about it.
Yeah, right. But in my head, it's just like, yeah, but guys, when a child comes, how the hell did the child come, guys? Someone had sex. Somebody had to.
In the book, you also touch on going viral.
Yes.
And I know that's what so many people want to achieve.
Yes.
Obviously, it's important that people do the work and there's the integrity there in terms of their personal brand. But virality is so important.
Yes.
So, speak on that. And is there anything people can do on a practical level to be getting the viral results?
So funnily enough, my viral mentor is actually my husband. So my husband is actually the person that taught me in terms of virality. And one thing that he always taught me is consistency will always feed the algorithm. And I find that a lot of people, what happens is they try and do so many different things rather than be consistent in the one thing and allow the algorithm to pick it up. So you end up doing 500 things thinking, I just want to wait for the one thing to land, rather than hitting the tree 500 times. And just that one time when that tree goes down, it goes down. So it goes back to the clip that you know me for, You're Too Broke Not to Be Visible. I uploaded actually 20 different types of videos of that one talk before that thing went viral. And that added me 70,000 followers on my Instagram.
No way.
Yeah, it brought me 70,000 followers.
Wow.
That one clip. And it also generated over 6 figures in terms of income for me.
Seriously?
Yeah, virality is king.
I love it. And what does your husband do? Because he works in the social media space, right?
Yeah, so my husband's actually my brand owner. So basically, he's the person that builds my brand, owns my brand. He oversees everything in terms of my content, everything in terms of my CRM, everything in terms of like my B2C. He's my CGO, basically, of the company. And he basically uses content to basically grow the business in terms of the B2C part of the business. And he's an accountant actually by profession. Then he went into marketing and he basically utilized his ability to study numbers and analytics and actually applied it now to social media. So for a lot of people, what they don't do is they never look at their analytics. So he's quite analytical. And one of the things that I would say for anybody in terms of virality is what works and double down on it. Look at the analytics. Numbers do not lie. Something that Jay-Z said, numbers do not lie. Look at what makes sense. What is doing well? What's the thing that's had over 1,000 views, 10,000 views? Double down on it. Can you communicate what you had said in a different way? Or if it's B-roll, can you basically make a new B-roll with a different way? And I found that what had actually worked well for me was whenever I spoke anything under Audacity. Anytime I kind of motivated people and said, guys, you need to be audacious. You're too broke not to be visible. You need to put yourself out there. You need to show up so that God can show out. People be like, we want this. So the algorithm is looking at the comments and they're looking at the people engaged. And they're like, yeah, let's pump that. So I actually found what works. But the only way you're going to find what works is you have to look at the numbers. So my husband is the person who's on to me, says, Hayley, numbers, 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 to the point that now I can't post anything without analysing basically what worked before.
I love that.
Yeah.
Where did you meet your husband?
Twitter. Slid into my DMs because I won an awards in terms of speaking. So listen, me speaking up got me married.
I love that.
Yeah.
What did he say in your DMs?
Oh, he basically said that, hey, Hayley, love the work that you're doing. I'm finding it pretty inspirational. Is there anywhere that I can read more about your work? That's actually the first DM he sent me.
Slick.
Yeah, he's very slick. Very, very slick.
But he was on to you, though.
Yeah, he was on to me. Funny enough, he was the first person that ever bought my first book. He surprised me a month after sliding into my DMs. He traveled for 2 hours to surprise me at a speaking engagement. That's
romantic.
That's the first time I actually ever met him, was at a speaking engagement. But I denied loving him for about 4 years. I only got with him in COVID. Yeah, I got with him in COVID.
But may I just say, you two are such a gorgeous couple.
Thank you.
You look absolutely stunning together.
Thank you.
And your wedding day looked like a huge affair.
Yeah, we had like 300 people. I mean, it took me into it cost me a lot of money. And, I'm very grateful that we made the money back. But my husband is not just been a great partner, spouse, friend, but he's been one of my greatest cheerleaders. And one of the things I definitely would say, in a world that is very noisy and in a world that has a lot of criticism, I'll say this to anybody who's looking to build their brand: make sure you have safe spaces. Because a lot of people don't actually know how much it costs us to put our life out there. Not everybody likes me. Not everybody likes what I'm doing. As you said, for some people, I am too much, way too much. For some people, I'm not enough. But I'm so grateful that I have one of the most important voices, which is my husband, to be a voice of such encouragement and such great cheer. So a lot of people wonder, why does this girl have the ability to dominate? Outside of my faith, I would say it's the voice of my husband. Before every single speaking engagement, he's praying for me. Before every single time I step out, he reminds me how proud I am. Literally, I have a whole dedication. My last chapter of the book is called A New Records. And it's basically about how if you want to create a new record, because my last name is Record, And I literally dedicate that whole chapter to my husband in terms of the fact that when I actually got with my husband, my whole life changed. And when I married him, I saw the most money in my life. I saw the most virality in my life. I saw the greatest opportunities in my life because I had a voice in my life that told me, Hayley, you can do it.
And you know what? I really think, I'm just showing your book here.
Thank you.
People have to grab this,
Yes.
especially because I feel like it's going to really give you these practical tips. But what I really like about what you just said there, and especially as a Black couple as well, I'm quite big on this. Like, I really think it's really interesting that it's really important that people see that as almost like a an inspirational moment.
Yeah.
Our union, because we don't see enough like Black family role models and couples.
Yeah.
I speak to my friend Michelle Griffiths-Robinson about this all the time.
I
Her
love
husband's
Michelle.
also Black. And so we talk about how important that is as well. And, oh God, I've completely lost my train of thought of what I was saying. The last thing I was going to say was husband. Oh no. But I think what's really cool is that what you're talking about is celebrating a union between two people rather than thinking, oh, I want to be independent, I want to do it all on my own.
Yeah.
And as modern day women, we do, want to juggle loads of,
independence. Yeah.
yeah. As modern day women, we want to spin loads of plates. But I think it is great when we can also celebrate the fact that we are dependent on someone who loves us, and actually that's a good thing, and you can go further as part of the team.
Yes,
It doesn't have to always be us on our own.
I literally say that if you see me with my husband, you're going to be like a complete different Hayley. I'm like, babe, I can't lift it. Even whenever I travel without him and I have to get my suitcase from the conveyor belt, I message him like, babe, I can't believe I have to get this suitcase. But
it's great to lean into your softness, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love it. And I definitely can see the difference in how I show up in terms of my business because I'm more soft. I used to be very aggressive. And I think it helped me in my early years of my career. Like, I was very aggressive out there, bullish, still am, but I'm bullish from a different place. And I definitely have tapped into a higher, how to say it, definitely in terms of feminine energy. I definitely am more kind of soft. I'm definitely more still aggressive, still bullish, but I definitely allow my husband to do what he needs to do and I can do what I need to do.
And I love that. And I'm the same. I used to always feel like, independent woman. I don't need anyone to support me. And actually the relationship that I'm in now with my husband, he's the only person that's ever really supported me in any way where I haven't had to think about, I'm providing everything.
I love that.
And actually it's great to lean into that.
It's great. And I love it for you and I love it for us.
Yes. Speaking of which, because we were chatting off camera about this,
right?
You were keen to share a story about something that you went through when you were younger.
Yes.
Because it relates to the whole taboo topic and a lot of what goes on, in our community as well.
Yes.
In the Black community around taboo topics and not wanting to speak about certain things.
Yes.
What happened to you when you were younger?
So when I was younger, I was really scared to start my period. And the reason why is because I had nobody actually sit me down and actually told me that periods exist. I found out in primary school when somebody actually started their period early. I was in year 6. Someone started their period early and they were like, so I was just like, what's a period? And they were like, it's when you bleed every month. And I was like, oh my gosh. Then I was like, do I have a choice? Do I have to no, every woman goes through this and you're going to be in pain and you're going to be tired and you're going to throw up and you're going to... So obviously in my head, I was just thinking, why? God, why did you do this? Why did you do this to us as women?
Oh, I just want to go back and hug the young you.
I was just so traumatized, and I had a conversation with quite a lot of my friends, especially many of us who come from African backgrounds. And many of us actually never sat down with our parents and heard the conversation regarding periods. And I find that there's a lot of parents that try and shy away from certain conversations, thinking they're protecting their child, but you're actually making your child, you're actually putting your child in a very vulnerable state. And I respect my mum and I love my mum for the fact that she was constantly working. So it might have even just slipped her mind. I don't even think that she intentionally never told me about it. But I think that there's just a lot of parents that just don't consider how important those conversations are. Because as I said, I was educated on a period through peers. I was in year 6. That's the first time I'd ever heard what a period was. And I find that there's just a lot of people who get exposed to certain things through their peers. And because of the fact that they're uneducated, you actually get misalignment with the truth. So remember, as I said, someone was telling me that you're going to be bleeding. So there's some level of truth, but the fact that they said you're going to be in pain every single month, you're going to throw up every month. I don't actually have those symptoms, any of those symptoms. But that was what I was projected by. And that's what I thought that a period was.
Yeah.
And now when I got into secondary school and I went to an all-girls school and now everyone was starting their period before me. I started my period in year 9. So year 7 and 8, majority of my form group had already started their period. I was actually the last in my form group to start my period. And so everybody was just kind of like, Hayley, you haven't started your period yet. And I was just kind of like, guys, I believed that I was going to be like the Virgin Mary. I genuinely believed.
It's so funny that everybody had this awareness of when everyone was starting their periods. I don't remember that from school.
Yeah, no, everybody knew that I hadn't started my period yet. And I remember literally saying, guys, don't worry about me. I had a conversation with God, and God said that I don't necessarily have to have a period because I'm special. And I literally was convinced that my conversation with God when I was in year 6, where I told God, listen, what I'm hearing about this, I don't think I can survive that every single month. So me and you, we need to do a deal. I do want to have children when I'm older, but you need to basically find a way that I can have children without this period thing. So you need to basically listen to me. And that was the conversation I had with God in year 6, generally.
Wow.
And so when it got to year 9, everyone was just like, Hayley, why don't you have your period yet? I was like, guys, you don't know me and God. We're good, all right? We've had that conversation.
Maybe psychologically your body was like, we can't do this for a while.
Right. And funny enough, there was one of my friends that was like, okay, Hayley, since you believe in God and since you talk to God, I want to talk to God and tell him to start your period. And I started my period that week.
Wow.
Yeah. I started my period that week.
So a message to any mums that are navigating bringing up girls, because funnily enough, like my daughters are very young and they're at primary school and they know all about it because they're just with me 24/7. And so I'm like, I'm in pain, leave me alone. This is what's going on. And they're like, oh no, mum's bleeding again. And I'm like, okay, is this maybe a bit young at 4 and 5? I don't know. But it's just kind of like organically happened like that.
But it's your way of mothering. And I think I would never come and dictate how someone should mother their child and how someone should parent their child.
But from your experience.
From my experience, I would say have the honest conversation. There's no way you want to listen to this podcast and you say, I want to be real and I want to show up and be honest, and you're not being honest and real with your own children.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Personal branding starts with integrity and it starts with home. You can't be out here trying to educate people everywhere in the world. You're not educating your own children.
That's a great connection between what you're doing as well, because you're trying to walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
Yeah.
And that's actually really important, isn't it? And a good conclusion really to draw that, you can want to go viral and you can want to build a great personal brand and you can want to launch a product-based business and tell your story through that. But if you're not doing the work behind the scenes, that was very much the case for me. I had to stop obviously chemically straightening my hair, understand that it was possibly, exacerbating fibroids, endometriosis, go through that whole process of like having breast lumps removed and stuff, and really fall in love with my natural hair, to then have the audacity to launch a hair brand. I can't do that until I've been through that process and pretend that.
And your hair is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
I love it. I can tell, and this is why personal branding is important, because I can look at your hair and tell that whatever you are selling to me, I will buy it. No, genuinely.
Well, I've got some products for you anyway.
No,
so I've got
genuinely,
it all for you.
because the truth is, in terms of that personal branding, that integrity, you walk the walk. There's no way that you can be saying that you have a hairline and you have a something to do with your hair and your hair doesn't look like what you are promoting. And that's what I mean in terms of personal branding. You need to look at your personal life. Your personal life has to be louder than your accolades and your results. Can someone look at your personal life? One thing about me, you can Google me. Even if you don't think I'm a good speaker, I've got Microsoft, Google, Meta, Unilever, Cabinet Office, the government of Malcolm Wayne that believes I'm a good speaker.
Wow, I love that.
So
that's social proof.
That's social proof. And that comes off the work that I did offline. And I'll end it here. Something that I'm very big on is many people look at Usain Bolt and they're kind of like, oh my gosh, Usain Bolt, he's a world record holder. We've never seen Usain Bolt run for more than 10 seconds, right? Not even 10 seconds, 1 minute. Because when you think about the 100 meters, he's running for 10 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. So we've never probably seen him run more than 10 minutes. But he's a record world holder. But I promise you that he's trained for more than 10 years. So you can imagine he's trained for more than 10 years offline for him to basically run for 10 seconds.
So the offline integrity that's being built is so important.
Yes, I just think that this is my final conclusion. Your personal brand doesn't change your personal life, it just amplifies it.
I love that. Hayley, you're amazing.
So are you.
You're such a gem.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you. I know I could say that because I could feel like your big sister, because I've got 20 years on you.
Yay!
And we've got to keep in touch.
For sure.
Best of luck with the book, all of your speaking engagements.
Thank you.
We'll have to speak again because I feel like this time wasn't long enough.
Definitely not. Don't worry. Let's go. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
No worries.